Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Deku. What if Deku was a vampire? Part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. And also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out. So let's start the video. At the young age of 4, Izuku Midoriya learned the unbelievably cruel truth that not all men are created equal. He was born without a quirk. While 80% of the population had some superhuman ability, he was only human. Although he wouldn't be that way forever. He will eventually turn into a vampire. A creature of the night with superhuman strength and speed. However, all of this power comes with a cost. He will have to contend for control over his body and mind with a seemingly unquenchable thirst for blood. His story started the day he met the #1 hero. It started like any other day. He got up for school and ate breakfast with his wonderful mother. She's such a wonderful mother. Thinks Midoriya, even if she didn't say what I needed to hear back then. His walk to school was slow, only so he wouldn't see Bakugo before classes started. He doesn't want any burns before classes begin because he doesn't want to deal with them for the whole day. When he makes it to school, he walks to his class and then to his desk. His classes go by normally until his homeroom at the end of the day. As third years, you should all fill out these career forms. But who am I kidding? You all want to go into the hero course. Shouts the teacher. The students respond with cheers and the activation of their quirks. Only 2 kids don't activate their quirks, one being Izuku Midoriya and the other being Katsuki Bakugo. Hey teacher, don't lump me in with the rest of these rejects. Says Bakugo after jumping on top of his desk. The rest of the class didn't take kindly to that remark and meted it with their own retorts. Get over yourself. We have good quirks. Buzz of Pomeranian hair. Oh Bakugo, you're going for the UAS hero course, right? Asks the teacher. Of course I am. I aced the mock tests and have a powerful quirk that's perfect for heroics. Shouts Bakugo arrogantly. Oh hey Midoriya, you're also going for the UAS hero course, right? Asks the teacher. What? No way. You can't get in without a quirk. That isn't true. They got rid of that rule so I could be the first. Says Midoriya. Deku, do you really think you can keep up with me, worthless piece of shit? Screeches Bakugo while blowing up Midoriya's desk and knocking him onto the floor. It's not like I'm trying to compete with you. Please believe me. I couldn't even dream of competing with you. It's just that I've wanted to be a hero for so long, and I don't think I could forgive myself if I didn't even try. Says Midoriya. You're really going to take the entrance exam just to try? You would die at the gate. You cannot become a hero without a quirk, you dumbass. Shouts Bakugo. Hey Bakugo, do whatever you want after class, but let me teach the class now. Says the teacher. Bakugo glanced at the teacher before shooting one last glare at Midoriya and then walked back to his desk to start the class back up. Once class was functioning again, it was pretty normal. Midoriya couldn't help but overhear what his classmates were whispering about him when they thought he couldn't hear them. Once classes were over, Midoriya took his time to pack his bag. While this was going on, Bakugo and his cronies walked over to Midoriya. We aren't done here, Deku. Says Bakugo while grabbing Midoriya's quirk analysis notebook. What you got there? His diary? Says crony #1. Kachan, can you please give that back to me? Asks Midoriya. Hero analysis for the future? You're still on about that shit? It won't work. I'm telling you, the teachers are telling you, students are telling, even your own mother is telling you it won't work. You're too pathetic to take care of yourself, so why would you even think of becoming a hero? Says Bakugo as he sets Midoriya's notebook aflame and throws it straight out the window. Why? Asks Midoriya. Bakugo ignores Midoriya's pleas for justification and places his hand on Midoriya's shoulders while burning him. I'm only gonna say this once, don't apply for UA, you damn nerd. Says Bakugo as smoke from Midoriya's uniform and shoulder filters through his fingers. Bakugo begins to walk away from Midoriya before deciding against it. Oh, I just thought of a way that you could become a hero. Pray you get a quirk in your next life and take a swan dive off the roof. Says Bakugo. Midoriya lets out a low growl and turns to Bakugo with a fury in his eyes, only to be cut short by Bakugo menacingly generating explosions, making it look like he's holding a ball of fire. You got something to say? Asks Bakugo. Midoriya responds with more silence. He's not even going to say anything? I thought that he still had some fight left in him. He's so pathetic. Says Crony 2, as the trio leaves the classroom. Yeah, why does he even think about being a hero? It's never gonna happen. Says Crony 1. Whatever the rest of that conversation held in store for Midoriya fell on deaf ears. Midoriya simply stood there in shock for a while before snapping out of his trance and heading home. Why would Kachan say that? If I actually did it, he would be put in prison for instigating a suicide. Not that I would do it, right? I wouldn't, but I wouldn't have to deal with that soreness or the burns anymore. But I can't do that to Mom. I'll keep living, even if it's only for her and not for me. Thinks Midoriya before stumbling upon the fried remains of his notebook in the school koi pond. Oh, would you look at that? My dreams are nothing more than fish food. Says Midoriya. Midoriya puts his notebook back in his bag and keeps walking home. If I really can't be like All Might, then what can I do? Thinks Midoriya. Well, maybe I can be like All Might in my own way. I can keep smiling just like him. I have to keep smiling. If I don't, then I might not be able to smile again. Thinks Midoriya before walking under a bridge. Midoriya's musings are cut short by a loud gurgling sound and a rather putrid stench coming from a manhole. A green blob of a sludge-like substance flowed from the manhole. I had no idea he was in town. I have to find someone soon. Says the sludge man. The man makes eye contact with Midoriya and lunges forwards onto Midoriya. It wraps around him and begins to suffocate him. To which he responds by flailing and trying desperately to escape the villain's grasp. Don't struggle, kid, that will only make it worse for you. Says the sludge villain. I'm dying. I'm dying. I'm not ready. I want to see Mom one last time. Just 5 minutes would be enough. Please somebody help me. I can't go yet. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go, I'm already dead. Nothing's gonna save me. Thinks Midoriya. Kid, you're my hero. Says the sludge villain. Hero, I'm his hero. I might not be able to save anybody, but I will be like All Might, says Midoriya, while forcing a smile onto his lips. Smile like him until the end. Fear not, citizen, comes a booming voice. All Might, thinks Midoriya. Texas Smash, shouts All Might. A shockwave comes off of All Might's fist and tears the sludge villain apart as Midoriya blacks out. When Midoriya begins to wake up, he hears and feels a loud, mildly irritating slapping. He opens his eyes to see the symbol of peace and the greatest hero on earth slapping him in the face repeatedly. All Might. I thought we lost you there, young man. Says All Might. Holy sh crap, it's All Might. All Might, you gotta sign my notebook. Says Midoriya before picking his notebook up off the ground and opening to a page with All Might's signature. You already signed it. Thank you so much. It will be passed down through the generations. It'll be a family heirloom. Thank you. Okay, well, I have to go. Says All Might. Wait, I have so much to ask you. Says Midoriya. I'm sorry, but one of the opponents a hero has is time. Says All Might while crouching and preparing to take off. Midoriya reaches to tug on All Might's shirt to get his attention, and the next thing he knows, he is flying above the city looking down on the lives going on below, completely unaware of the situation overhead. Midoriya quickly wraps his arms around All Might's muscular legs to prevent himself from falling to his death. Young man, I appreciate the fanatics, but please let go. Shouts All Might. I'm sorry, but I have so many questions for you. Shouts Midoriya. Okay, I'm gonna land on that building over there. Shouts All Might. A sudden pain flared through All Might's body, causing him to utter some expletives. Fortunately for him, Midoriya failed to notice. Shit, mutters All Might. All Might redirects his flight to a nearby building and lands on the roof. I just saw my life flash before my eyes. It was more disappointing than I thought it would be. Mutters Midoriya. That wasn't a very bright move, the young man. Says All Might. Now I really must be going. Wait, shouts Midoriya. I will not wait. Says All Might. I have to ask him. He's the #1 hero. He would know better than anyone else. He'll tell me I can be a hero. Because if I can't be a hero, then what am I still living for? Thinks Midoriya. Can somebody without a quirk be a hero? Can someone without a quirk be like you? It's been my dream since, as long as I can remember. I wanted to be like you. I want to save everybody I can with a smile on my face like you. A fearless smile that makes everybody around me feel safe. Says Midoriya, completely oblivious to All Might morphing into a ball of smoke and then deflating in front of him until he looks up and immediately begins screaming. Wait, you're not All Might. Are you an imposter? I can assure you I am All Might, but in this form I'd prefer you call me Toshinori. And about this form, you know how people suck in their guts and flex at the pool? Well, it's kind of like that," says Toshinori. "No way," says Midoriya. "Yes way, and about that fearless smile, you should know that there is plenty of fear behind that smile. I smile to make people feel safe and to trick the fear inside of me," says All Might. Midoriya felt as if his feet had grown roots into the roof. He couldn't move at all. He was captured by the words of his hero. "I need you to look at this," says All Might before lifting his shirt and revealing an intricate spider web pattern of scar tissue. "It's pretty gross, right? I got this 5 years ago and due to enough surgeries to last me a lifetime. I'm alive, but I can only maintain my hero form for 3 hours a day." 5 years ago? Was it your fight with the toxic chainsaw? Asks Midoriya. All Might's eyes widened before he responded, "You're rather well informed, but no, it wasn't my fight with the toxic chainsaw. This fight wasn't made public. The symbol of peace cannot be daunted by evil. Kid, there are some villains that are just too strong to beat. So can you be a hero? Sorry, but not without a quirk." Midoriya felt like his whole world was coming down on him for the 4th time today. He knew All Might wasn't done talking and half-heartedly registered that All Might was telling him he could be a police officer or a doctor, but his words fell on deaf ears as Midoriya fell to his knees and began to cry. He didn't know what to do. He spent his entire life trying to smile for the world like All Might, and now he couldn't even smile for himself. When a memory came to mind. If you want to be a hero so bad, why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and pray for a quirk in your next life? I can't live anymore. Not like this. Living like this is worthless like me. People would be better off without me. Mom wouldn't have to cry every day knowing I'm coming home day after wretched day with bruises, burns, and scars. I need to do this, I can't go any further," thinks Midoriya. When Midoriya looked up, he realized he worked his way over to the edge of the building. This is it, thinks Midoriya. Suddenly a massive explosion shakes the earth, heats the air, and manages to distract Midoriya from the jump. He runs down the stairs and out of the building, and only when he reaches the ground does he remember what All Might told him. It's pointless to go, thinks Midoriya before walking off. Midoriya didn't know where he was walking. All he knew was that he wasn't stopping anytime soon. That's what his plan was until he stumbled upon a crowd with several pro heroes in it. Despite thinking it wouldn't get him anywhere, he looked into the crowd, only to see the sludge villain. "Oh my god, the villain caught kid," says a woman in the crowd. "The villain got out when I grabbed All Might's leg. This is my fault," thinks Midoriya. Midoriya looks into the crowd before making eye contact with Bakugo, who is being held by the villain before his breath stops in the middle of his throat and he sprints towards his tormentor in an attempt to save him. "Kid, get back here. You're going to get yourself killed," shouts some pro hero. "You again?" shouts the villain. "I'll make sure I kill you this time." Midoriya interrupts the slime villain by throwing his backpack into the villain's eye, causing him to screech in pain and anger. Midoriya uses this time to grab Bakugo from the sludge and throw him to the pro heroes with all of his might. "You damn brat," shouts the villain. Midoriya looks back at the villain, only to be met with a powerful wave of sludge hitting him with the force of a semi-truck. Midoriya gets sent flying across the street and over a building. Time seems to slow down through his eyes. He sees All Might burst forward and smash the villain into blobs of sludge. He sees the terrified look of the crowd. Both of the things he had just seen didn't compare to the look in Bakugo's eyes. He couldn't quite place the emotion Bakugo was feeling. It looked like fear? Anger? Confusion? But most of all, it was apologetic. Bakugo's cruel words flashed through his mind once again. "If you want to be a hero so badly, then why don't you just jump off a roof and pray you get a quirk in the next life? Is this what you wanted, Ka-chan?" thinks Midoriya. Suddenly Midoriya feels gravity's effect on him again as he plummets down to the cruel world below him. He lands with a sickening crunch and barely has the strength left to move when he notices some movement out of the corner of his eyes. He sees a tall woman with dark hair, pale skin, red eyes, and glistening fangs. "I saw what you did back there. It was a rather interesting show you put on. I have to ask, why did you help him after everything he did to you?" says the unknown woman. The only thing that leaves Midoriya's mouth is a wet choking noise and some blood. "Right, you can't really talk right now. I'm gonna assume the reason you saved him was because you wanted to be a hero, right? If I could offer you a way to become a hero and the power to do it, would you accept, even if you had to lose your humanity? Asks the woman. Midoriya looks at her thoughtfully for a while before deciding to nod and become the hero he always wanted to be. You made the right choice. Now I have to take some of your blood. Although it is all over the ground, so that isn't much of a problem. She jokes before noticing the glare Midoriya is giving her. Next, you need to drink some of my blood. She uses the claws on the tips of her fingers to slice her wrist open and holds her hand out over his open mouth. The last thing he remembers is the unbelievably sweet taste of her blood, a taste so good he could compare it to the nectar of the gods. It was a taste he would soon be all too experienced with. So this is it, thinks Midoriya, this is death. I don't seem to be in heaven or hell. Maybe I'm in purgatory. This isn't so bad. It's peaceful. I wish I could see something. Anything really is just pitch black. It's a little boring. I always imagine purgatory as an infinite field of flowing white or maybe silver grass. So what do I do to pass the time before I go to heaven? Gosh, I hope I don't go to hell. My life was already painful. I don't think I could handle a similar afterlife without losing my mind. Oh, I know. I should try to reflect on my life, then maybe I can go to heaven. 10 years ago, Izuku and Inko Midoriya were waiting for the test results to see what Izuku's quirk would be. Izuku was so excited and happy at the prospect of getting a quirk. He didn't know it at the time, but that happiness wasn't going to last much longer. The Midoriyas walked into the office after being called only for their hopes to be dashed by the words Izuku never even dreamed of hearing. Sorry kid. It's not going to happen. Says the doctor. In the back of Izuku's 4-year-old mind, he knew he should have kept paying attention to his doctor, but how could he? He didn't have a quirk. Why won't I get my quirk? Everybody I know has a quirk. Why does everyone get one except for me? Thinks Izuku. Later Izuku would realize that the worst part about not having a quirk was lacking power, but how people reacted to his lack of quirk. It was like a person's quirk was their defining feature. It was like it indicated their worth. Without a quirk he was seen as worthless. His parents seemed to believe he was worth something. Unfortunately for him, he eventually heard what his father really thought about him during one of his parents' numerous arguments, most of which he was at the Bakugo house for. As luck would have it, Izuku was at home for this argument. He still remembers every single word so vividly. He remembered his father's anger, but more importantly he heard how angry mom got when the idea of giving him away came up. For years after, he uses this memory to make himself feel important to someone, even if it's only one person. In Izuku's opinion, she's worth far more than one person. The argument happened roughly 2 weeks after Izuku was informed of his quirkless status. During those 2 weeks his father was cruel to him, even going as far as harming the boy, his boy, and not feeling sorry in the slightest. Midoriya was in his room playing with his All Might figures when the conversation on the other side of the house became loud and heated enough for him to hear. I don't want to keep the little shit. He doesn't have a fucking quirk. Why can't you see he's fucking worthless? Shouts Hisashi. Don't you dare talk about our son in that way. Screeches Inko in defense of her baby. Inko, I refuse to call that freak my child. Hisashi calls out. Well, he is your child. You're going to have to get used to it and raise him with me. Shouts Inko. I'm gonna try to put this in a way easier for you to understand. It's him or me. Which do you prefer? Asks Hisashi. At this point Izuku had left his room to hear their conversation better. He didn't know why, but something made him hesitant to show himself, so he chose to stay hidden. I'm sorry Hisashi, but if that's the way you feel, you need to pack your bags. Says Inko. Hisashi stares at his soon-to-be ex-wife in shock before his face contorts into a look of rage. You bitch. You're actually gonna pick that worthless little shit over me? That's our boy Hisashi. Says Inko. No, there is no fucking way I made that quirkless freak. Says Hisashi. Don't talk about our boy that way, declares Inko angrily. That's not my fucking kid. Who the hell did you cheat on my with, you dirty bitch? Asks Hisashi. How dare you? I'm a good person unlike you. Says Inko. Well, you know what, fuck you and your dumbfic bastard child. If the two of you shits want me gone so damn bad, I'm fucking leaving. Shouts Hisashi before walking out the front door, slamming it on his way out. Midoriya didn't know it at the time, but that wasn't going to be the only person to turn his back on him. He also didn't know how often he would be hearing some variations of that man's cruel words. One thing he did know that stands true to this day is that his mother will always love him with or without a quirk. The next betrayal would be committed by his childhood friend who would take the whole school with him. It happened not long after his father left. Izuku looks back on it and wishes he saw it coming. The more he thinks about it, the more signs there are. It took place not long after his father left him, and his mother. "Ka-chan, please stop hurting him," shouts a 4-year-old Izuku trying to defend his classmate. "You're really trying to play the hero? You can't be a hero, you're quirkless," says Bakugo. "If you don't stop, I'll stop you myself," says Izuku despite how scared he really is. "I think we have to teach Deku his place," Bakugo says to his lackeys before they beat Izuku up. This wasn't the last time Izuku would get beaten by his classmates. It was only the beginning of his personal hell. Day after day he would get hurt by his classmates, wishing only to be friends, or at the very least to be helpful in some way. For 10 long and painful years Izuku would go through physical abuse at the hands of his classmates. He could take the physical abuse, it was the verbal abuse that got to him. It dug its claws in and refused to let go of his mind. He grew up being told he was worthless, and despite trying for so long he was starting to believe them. If you want to be a hero so badly, pray you get a quirk in your next life and take a swan dive off a roof. Echoes through Izuku's mind. Maybe he was right. Maybe I should have killed myself, but I guess the outcome was the same. Maybe he was right about reincarnation. If I'm lucky I will wake up with powers of my own. With Inko. When Inko heard about what had happened to her baby boy, she was shocked, confused, but most of all she was terrified. As any mother should be if their child nearly dies. Inko didn't care about what was happening in the rest of the world. All she needed to do was see her baby. She got to the hospital with a speed that would put All Might to shame and demanded to see her baby. When she got to see him, he looked so pale she would have thought he was dead if it weren't for the doctor's reassurance that her boy was still alive. She was told he was in a coma and should wake up within a month. So she waited day after day until a week passed. I should have never disregarded his dreams like that. If he died I would have never got the chance to apologize to him for what I said that day, thinks Inko. 10 years ago. Inko and Izuku got back from the quirk specialist and Hisashi was out at work. Inko could tell her boy was crushed, but she didn't know what to say. She decided to pull up a video that always puts a smile on his face. It was a video of All Might's debut. Inko thought it was scary, but Izuku loved it. She expected to see his brilliant smile return to his face, but was instead met with more tears. "Mom, he's such a cool hero. He always keeps smiling even when it's hard. Do you think I could be a hero too?" asks Izuku. Inko felt something in her heart break when she saw his face. Her boy shouldn't have that expression on his face. He should be smiling and laughing like he deserves, but instead he is crying. Inko didn't know what to say. What could she say? The only thing that came to mind through the internal turmoil she was dealing with was 3 words. "I'm so sorry." Inko wails before embracing Izuku in a loving and apologetic embrace. She regretted what she said to him for years after. She couldn't bring herself to talk about it. She was scared. Scared of seeing that pain in his eyes again. She felt like a coward, like she was too scared to properly raise her own child. Unbeknownst to her, Izuku still and always will believe that he has the greatest mother in the world, and nothing including All Might himself would ever begin to change that. Back to present. As soon as he wakes up I'm going to hug him and apologize for everything, thinks Inko. Inko wouldn't know until several minutes later, but her boy's awakening was sooner than she imagined. After making sure she was ready to talk, whenever he woke up she began to patiently wait by his bedside, as he has been doing for the past week. She heard a low groan come from her boy. All she could do was stare at her boy with her eyes widened from shock. Izuku opened his eyes and glanced around a little bit before making eye contact with his mom. "Mom?" Izuku says questioningly. "My baby boy. I'm so glad you're okay." Inko shouts. "Mom, I'm alive," says Izuku while looking shocked. "How am I alive?" asks Izuku. "If you'd like I can answer all your questions while doing my checkup," says a slightly familiar voice. Izuku turns his head with some irritation and a slight crackling in his neck to see the woman who promised to keep him alive and give him powers. "It's you," says Izuku with a surprised tone of voice. "Izuku, do you know her?" asks Inko. "I was nearby when the villain attacked and I got him to the hospital," says the woman. "Oh, thank you so much. I don't think I could repay you for saving my baby boy," says Inko. There is no need to pay me. It is my job after all. Jokes the woman. Well, thank you anyways. Says Inko. As much as I would love to talk more, I need to make sure your boy is recovering fully. Says the woman. Then I'll give you some room to work and be back in a couple of minutes. Says Inko before stepping out of the room. Alright, Mr. Midoriya, I'm sure you have lots of questions about what I told you when we first met. So ask away. Says the woman. Well, I'd like to know your name. Says Izuku. My name is Ruby Rhodonite, but you can call me Ruby. Both my first and last name are shared with gemstones. Anything else? Says Ruby. How long have I been asleep? Asks Izuku. You've been asleep for a week. Says Ruby. A week, shouts Izuku. I understand this is surprising, but please try to keep it down while we are in the hospital. Says Ruby. Right. Sorry. What did you mean about giving me the power to be a hero? Asks Izuku. Well, this is where the explanations get harder. Do you know what a vampire is? Asks Ruby. Like the bat? Questions Izuku. People are so obsessed with quirks they completely forget all about us vampires. Says Ruby indignantly. I'm sorry, but could you please explain what a vampire is? Requests Izuku. Oh right. A vampire is an undead being with some form of powers that differ from vampire to vampire. My powers are mental and let me move things with my mind along with messing with other people's heads. The only real downside to being a vampire is we have to drink human blood exclusively. Explains Ruby. But what does this have to do with me? Asks Izuku. You're a vampire now. States Ruby. I'm a vampire? Asks Izuku. Yup. Says Ruby. What kind of powers will I get? Questions Izuku. Your guess is as good as mine. We'll find out when you first use them. Says Ruby, causing Izuku to deflate a little. Wait, am I gonna have to drink human blood? Asks Izuku. Yeah, we do. It's why I chose to work at a hospital, where I get to take some blood. I probably could have done the same in the hero industry, but that's too much work. Explains Ruby. I can't drink human blood. I was just a human a week ago, says Izuku. You can try to fight it, but the bloodlust will move your body eventually. I recommend finding something that gets your blood without getting you in trouble. Says Ruby. I don't have a choice. How am I supposed to become a hero like this? Asks Izuku. You could just take blood from villains. Says Ruby. How am I supposed to not take blood between now and the time I'm a hero? Asks Izuku. Well, you could become a vigilante. Says Ruby. I can't do that, it's illegal. Says Izuku. Okay, fine. But it's gonna catch up to you eventually. Says Ruby. Well, I'm gonna fight it for as long as I can. Says Izuku. It's harder than you would think, but from what I've seen about your determination, you just might be able to fight it for a while. Any more questions? Says Ruby. When do I get to leave the hospital? Asks Midoriya. You should be able to leave after I finish my checkup. Says Ruby. Okay. Says Izuku, excited to go home because despite the fact he hasn't been awake very long, he already feels like he wants to curl up in his bed and sleep the stress away. Oh. I should give you my number in case you have any more questions about being a vampire. Says Ruby. I normally do have lots of questions. I guess I'm just tired right now. Says Izuku. That makes sense. The transformation process is very tiring, but you should have retractable fangs and claws now. Says Ruby. I should test those later, but I'm too tired now. Izuku says with a yawn. Then I should get to work on my checkup and send you on your way. Says Ruby. After the checkup, Izuku and Inko were leaving the hospital. Izuku didn't think he would be able to stay awake for the entire ride back. He was right. The last thing he remembers before falling asleep was looking up to the full moon shining brightly in the darkness around it. Before Izuku knew it, he was being woken up by his mother so that they could go up to their apartment. Izuku groggily got out of the car and up the stairs to the apartment. Izuku wanted to go straight to bed, but Inko told him to shower first. Knowing that he put his mother through unbelievable stress quite recently, he decided to oblige her. Izuku ran the water for his shower, but when he stuck his hand in to check the temperature, he felt a burning sensation that traveled up his whole arm. He looked down at his hand to see some skin had been burned away despite the water being cold. He didn't know what it meant, so he decided to ask Ruby. Hey, it's me, Izuku Midoriya. I wanted to know if I might have any reactions to touching water? Asks Izuku. Her response was nearly immediate. Don't touch running water. If you want to clean yourself, you need to take a bath, not a shower. Texts Ruby. Izuku took her advice and found no pain in the water. He was finally able to relax. Or so he thought. He felt hungry, and he remembered what Ruby said about drinking blood. He tried to walk back to his room, but was stopped by Inko. "Hey Izuku," says Inko. Izuku had never felt an urge as strong as the one he was currently trying to fight off. "Hey mom," Izuku says, struggling to speak without turning teeth to fangs and doing something he would never forgive himself for. Inko seems to notice his difficulty talking before saying, "You seem tired, you should get some sleep, and we can talk in the morning." "Yeah, I'm feeling pretty tired. I'll see you tomorrow," says Izuku before heading to his room and lying down. What the hell was that? Is that what I'm gonna have to deal with? Thinks Izuku. You could just be a vigilante, flashes through his head. I thought I shouldn't, but if I don't I might hurt someone innocent. I won't make up my mind yet, but I really should consider what she said along with my other options. Which I don't seem to have much of. Thinks Izuku. Izuku tried to sleep, but he had trouble. When he finally got to sleep, his brain forced images of him losing control to his bloodlust around his mother. He only knew one thing about what he was going to do next, and it wasn't to get any sleep. Izuku slept for an hour at the most, and he was exhausted when he woke up. He wanted nothing more than to crawl back into bed and go to sleep, but he doubted he would be able to if he tried. And he still had to see what his powers were. If he wanted to get into the UA, he would need a good grasp on his powers in the next. He had 20 months to find and control his powers, whatever those were. He decided to keep a notebook on anything he discovered. He heard footsteps going up to his door. He heard 2 knocks, to which he replied, "Come in." "Hi Izuku," says Inko as she comes into his room. "Hi mom," Izuku replies. "How are you feeling?" asks Inko. "Despite sleeping for a week I feel tired," jokes Izuku. "Well, try to relax sweetly. I wish I had more time to talk, but I have to go to work. I already missed a week and my boss doesn't want me to miss anymore," says Inko. "I'll try to relax, but I might go for a walk. Sleeping for a week makes you go numb. Also your boss sounds evil," says Izuku. "Oh he is, but he pays the bills," jokes Inko. "But I do have to go now, so if you go for a walk don't work yourself too hard." "I'll try not to," says Izuku. "Bye sweetie," says Inko as she steps out of Izuku's room. "Bye mom," says Izuku. Izuku spent hours lying down and thinking about what happened with the villain. What Bakugo said to him, and unlike before, Izuku found himself being increasingly unforgiving and furious with the way Bakugo treats him. He hopes his vampiric powers can put Bakugo in his place, but he isn't betting on it. He thinks about what Ruby told him about being a vigilante. Where would I even start? What would I do? Would I just go to the bad parts of town and wait for something to happen, then stop it? Thinks Izuku. Actually, that last part doesn't sound horrible. But I still want to be a hero like All Might. Izuku begins to remember his conversation with All Might, and much like before, while thinking about Bakugo it angered him, although not to the same extent. How dare he say I can't be a hero? I saved Bakugo's life when none of the actual licensed heroes even tried. They just sat there and were fine with watching a teenager die in front of them when they had the power to stop it. Everyone there was so busy thinking about their quirks none of them even tried. They all think quirks are so important, but I did what they couldn't, and I didn't use a quirk. Thinks Izuku, who is now livid with the way things went the week before. Izuku got out of his bed and began to pace back and forth around the apartment, fuming at the injustice of it all and the hypocrisy of the heroes. I have to go, do something to clear my head. I should try going for a walk. Thinks Izuku. Izuku brushes his teeth before thinking that he might have to treat them any differently now that they can transform. He decides to ask Ruby for advice. Do I have to brush my teeth differently now that I have fangs? Texts Izuku. Brush with normal teeth, then do it again with fangs out. Also flex your gums to get fangs and fingers to get claws. Flex again to put them away. Replies Ruby. Izuku thanks her and brushes his fangs. He then fills the sink with water to wash his hands as he remembers and still sees what happened when he touched warm water, although the burn seemed to heal and become a scar pretty quickly. He heads back into his room to get dressed in something comfortable like sweats and a t-shirt when he comes to the realization that he is surrounded by All Might merchandise, which only serves in ruining his already distressed emotional state. Izuku isn't one for swearing, although he soon will be, and only one word comes to mind at this revelation: damn. Izuku doesn't know what he wants to do with all of his All Might merchandise, but he does know that he doesn't want to see it anymore. He spends a portion of the day removing all of his posters, figures, and All Might clothes into a box in his closet. What he still has left to wear is mostly plain green, gray, and black shirts, so he decides to wear a black V-neck t-shirt that accents the lean but powerful muscles that he only noticed the transformation had given him while he was putting on the shirt. I wonder if all vampires are muscular. Or maybe I just got super strength from my transformation, thinks Izuku. He chose to wear a pair of black jeans along with his shirt. Once he had his outfit on, he got his wallet, phone and keys, and then he stepped outside and went for his walk. He didn't really know where he was going. He just wandered around. He was aware of a numb pain hitting him whenever his skin touched the sunlight, but decided to ignore it and ask Ruby later. He walked by the school, the alleyway where he was first attacked by the sludge villain, the building where All Might told him he couldn't be a hero, and he finally went by the scene of the crime in which he and Bakugo fought the sludge villain. During this time he didn't know how to feel with all of the memories coming at him. He didn't really feel anything at all. Apathy is better than feeling crushed, I guess, thinks Izuku. Izuku decided that it would be a good time for him to head back home. His walk home was mostly uneventful. He didn't expect anything major to happen. So when Bakugo and his lackeys turned the corner, Izuku finally started feeling any sort of emotion, and he felt fucked. He didn't know what to do or say. Would they hurt him? Would they give him pity? Would he lose control of his bloodlust and hunger, which had started bothering him at some point during his walk? All he knew is that the second Bakugo turned that corner and they made eye contact, his day was only going to get worse from here. Oh, if it isn't Deku? Says one of Bakugo's followers who Izuku doesn't remember the name of. It is. Replies Izuku, trying to be as snarky as possible without getting hurt. Are you trying to be a smartass now? Says Bakugo's other follower, whom Izuku decided to call Finger Man due to his extendable fingers. And if I am? Asks Izuku. Then we'll kick your ass. Says the other bully whose name and quirk Midoriya can't remember. I know you're not gonna kick my ass. Says Izuku, causing Bakugo to raise his eyebrows at Izuku's sudden willingness to swear. You're getting ballsy, you shit stain. Come on Bakugo, let's kick his ass. Says Finger Man. Bakugo's not gonna do a damn thing. Says Midoriya while hiding his true anger behind a smirk. Fuck did you just say? Says Bakugo while gritting his teeth in anger. I said you're not gonna do a damn thing. And do you want to know why? Replies Midoriya. Alright fucker, tell me why. Says Bakugo. It's because I got put in a coma for a week, because I saved you. Says Midoriya. I didn't need you help, shitrag, shouts Bakugo. Midoriya made eye contact with Bakugo, and for the first time in his life Bakugo saw that Midoriya was angry. Although Bakugo didn't know the extent of Midoriya's rage, he didn't think he was going to like what he was about to hear. Well, I guess I'll just let you die next time. Says Izuku calmly. At this, Bakugo and his followers fell silent. They didn't know what to say to that. Because what are you supposed to do when the nicest kid in school who helps everybody, even those that hurt him, looks you in the eye and says he will let you die? Most would be struck speechless, and for a moment Bakugo was speechless. He soon regained his anger and ability to speak. Fuck you Deku. I'll fucking kill you. Shouts Bakugo. You already have. Says Izuku before he walks off back towards his house. He can hear Bakugo's followers talk about running him down and beating him. He doesn't care. He's taken every beating that they could give him so far, and he's always got up and headed home. He hears Bakugo say it doesn't matter and that he just wants to get down to the 7-Eleven and get his protein bars. I honestly expected to get hurt by something today, but I guess the emotional pain from that conversation will have to cover for my daily physical pain intake. Geez, that was sort of morbid. But I guess that's what happens to somebody when they die and wake up. That was still too morbid. Thinks Midoriya before deciding to shut off his brain for a little while and just walk home. Midoriya looked down at his phone and saw that his mother would be home soon. He decided to pick up his pace. He made it back home a little while before his mother would arrive. He felt his stomach growl at him, and he remembered that not only has he not eaten today, he can't without risking hurting somebody. So he decided to deal with it because he knew he couldn't forgive himself if he sunk his fangs into somebody. He decided to distract himself by watching the news. He saw what All Might had done throughout the day. It didn't help his mood in the slightest. He also saw that the hero killer Stain struck down another hero in a nearby town. That caught his interest, but couldn't really help him cope with his hunger. The last thing he saw was a story about a group of 3 vigilantes that were doing work not too far away from where he lived. He heard keys jangle outside the door to his house and realized that his mother was coming home and they had to have a talk about everything that happened. His mother opened the door to find him sitting on the couch. "Oh Izuku, I wasn't sure if you were going to get out of bed today," says Inko. "I went on that walk I was talking about," says Izuku. "How was it?" asks Inko as she puts up her purse. "It was relaxing. I saw Bakugo while he was out walking somewhere," says Izuku. "How is he doing after all of that?" asks Inko as she sits down. "He was doing okay, I think. He was a little quieter than usual and cursed a little less. I think he might be a little shaken, but not enough to hold him back," replies Izuku. "That's good to hear." Now Izuku, says Inko. This is it. She's gonna start asking questions. Thinks Izuku wishes he knew what to say to reassure his mother. "How are you taking this? Tell me everything. I know you have a tendency to not tell me things so that I don't worry about you. And that's really brave of you, but I need you to be honest with me. This is for your sake as well as mine, so I trust you won't hold anything back from me," says Inko while maintaining eye contact with Izuku. "How do I feel?" questions Izuku. "Well, I don't really know. I feel so many different emotions, but I'm not able to figure most of them out. It's like I'm awake, but nothing feels real. Like I'm still dreaming that I can come back, but nothing feels real. I'm scared that my visions are going to fade into darkness and I'm gonna be in that coma again, and all of this is going to be a dream. But most of all I feel this new tiredness that I've never experienced before that seems to refuse to go away. Oh, Izuku, that must be so hard to deal with. You shouldn't have to go through that all on your own. Nobody your age should have to go through that. Actually, nobody of any age should have to go through all of that. I'm gonna make sure that you don't go through this alone. I'll be there for you. You're such a good child. When I saw you run towards that villain I was terrified. I thought that you wouldn't be able to do much considering the heroes couldn't, but you did what they couldn't. You had the courage to run at that villain and save somebody that was so mean to you for all of those years," says Inko. In that last sentence from his mother's speech it occurred to him that she knew the way that Bakugo treated him and how much that must have hurt her. "You know?" Izuku asks. "I've known for a while. I've tried to get Mitsuki to stop him, and she has tried too, but they just can't control him. I've spent so much time trying to avoid your problems. Well, I'm done just standing around and hoping things will get better for us. I'm going to be there for you. I'll go and slap Bakugo if that's what it takes," says Inko with determination. "I appreciate that sentiment, but I don't think you'll have to hit Bakugo." "I'm done. Do you mind if I swear?" asks Izuku. "I'll allow it just because I know this is stressful for you," says Inko. "I'm done taking his shit. If he speaks to me in a degrading way I'll talk back, and if he hits me I'll hit back," says Izuku. "I'm glad that you're going to stand up for yourself, but please try not to get into fight," says Inko. "I'll try not to, but knowing Bakugo I might just have to fight," says Izuku. "Only when you have to," says Inko. "Only when I have to," confirms Izuku. "There's one more thing I want to talk about," says Inko. "What is it?" asks Izuku. "I'm not sure if you remember this, but when you were younger and you just found out that you were quirkless you asked me if you could be a hero. I didn't know what to say. My mind just froze up. All I could say was," says Inko, before getting cut off. "I'm sorry," says Izuku. "You remembered?" says Inko. "I remember a lot of things from around that time despite me being so young," says Izuku. "Do you remember the day your father left?" says Inko, only now realizing she had been crying for some time. "I remember it clearly," says Izuku. "I'm so sorry," says Inko. "You don't need to be. I remember everything he said, but none of that stuck to me. The thing that stuck to me was what you said. You defended me. You just wouldn't give up on me, even when everybody else did. When I had almost nobody I always had you. You sent away your own husband just to keep me," says Izuku. "Thank you for having so much faith in me," says Inko. "You deserve all of it," says Izuku. "Is there anything else we need to talk about?" asks Inko. Izuku briefly debates telling her about vampirism, but decides to give that some more time as he hasn't come to terms with it yet. He doesn't know where to begin when explaining it, so he decides to wait until he is ready, and then he will tell her. After this talk, Izuku and his mother started making dinner. Izuku didn't know exactly how eating normal food would affect him, so he sent a text to Ruby. "What would happen if I ate human food?" asks Izuku. "It would completely disintegrate in your stomach and you wouldn't get any nutrition from it. So basically nothing happens. Also, food will lose all taste in your mouth, or it will just taste bad. It depends on the food," says Ruby. After Izuku and his mother finished making dinner, they ate in silence as they felt everything that needed to be said was already laid out. Izuku found that none of his food tasted bad, but didn't exactly taste like anything at all, just like Ruby said. After he finished eating, he went to take a cold bath. He put on his pajamas and looked in the mirror, noticing he got a little bit taller. Izuku and his mother usually go to sleep very early, but Izuku decided to lie down and look at the news on his phone, only to see more of All Might. He once again realized how hungry he was and wanted to find another distraction from the ever-present pain that had suddenly spiked. He figured that he should go to sleep soon because there was nothing that he wanted to see. He was about to go to sleep when he got a text from Ruby. "Have you had anything to drink?" asks Ruby. "I haven't drank yet," replies Izuku. "You need to drink soon. If you keep doing this to yourself, you're gonna lose control. Don't do something you might regret," says Ruby. "I know I should drink, but I want more time," says Izuku. "You don't have more time," says Ruby. "Do you have any suggestions?" asks Izuku. "I was gonna ask you to meet me tomorrow to talk about the powers that all vampires have. We can talk more about it then. Meet me by the hospital around 9 o'clock, says Ruby. "Okay, good night," says Izuku. "Good night," replies Ruby. Izuku woke up with a pain in his stomach that refused to go away. He knew it wasn't healthy to avoid eating, but he knew that he would regret feeding himself even if he eventually got over it. He didn't know what to do. He could smell blood from all around him, whether it be his mother's or that of someone in an apartment near his. He decided to get out of bed and look for something that could distract him from his hunger. He brushed his teeth and then his fangs. He took a cold bath, hoping to get a distraction in the frigid water, only to find his stomach growling louder and with more passion than before. He looked at his clock and found out that it was still only 6 in the morning. He knew his mother would wake up soon. He was uncertain if he should be happy for a distraction or scared by the possibility of losing control around his mother. When his mother woke up, she began to converse with him. "How did you sleep?" asks Inko. "I slept well, but I wish I slept more," replies Izuku. "And how are you feeling?" asks Inko. Still shaken up. "I think I need to clear my mind some more. I'm gonna go for another walk," says Izuku. "Okay. Take your phone and keep in touch with me," says Inko. "I will. Bye, Mom," says Izuku before grabbing his phone and heading out the door. Izuku began walking around. Much like his last stroll, he had no destination in mind. He was panicking a little. Tomorrow is Monday, and he doesn't want to spend a whole day at school with Bakugo. He just wants to find a way to get rid of his hunger that doesn't make him feel guilty to think about. He keeps these thoughts in mind as he strolls for hours. Every hour he texts his mom the name of the street he is on and tells her that he's fine. He walks his way down to a beach that he sees is called Dagaba Municipal Beach Park. The entire beach is covered in garbage, but he doesn't seem to notice the smell. He walks into the beach and manages to climb his way up to a chair on top of a pile of garbage that is high enough for him to look out into the horizon and watch the waves come into shore. He can see the water ripple in the distance with the influence of the moon overhead. He wonders if the sun feels so much hotter than usual because of his vampiric body. He sends a text to his mom and ponders his humanity or lack thereof. He decides to work his way down the pile of trash. When he gets to the bottom, he hears a loud series of bangs behind him and sees a refrigerator falling on him. He puts his arms out in a desperate attempt to save himself when he finds that the fridge was stopped by his hands and seems to have nothing in his hands. "I've got super strength," thinks Midoriya. He tries to push the fridge off of his arms and sends it flying into the pile of garbage. "Holy shit, I've got super strength," thinks Midoriya again. "I've got to test the limits. How much can I lift? How hard can I punch? How hard can I kick? How fast can I run? How far can I jump? Does this come with added durability? Will drinking blood increase my current strength? Will me avoiding drinking blood make me weaker?" Midoriya spent the rest of the day figuring out his powers. He could lift one truck loaded with appliances. One fridge, one washer, half a dryer, 3 microwaves, 8 toasters, and a motorcycle. The motorcycle actually still worked, and he made the decision to hide that away in the rocks that people without strength and mobility-enhancing powers couldn't get to the top of. Speaking of mobility enhancers, he could jump about 8 times as high and as far as a truck with a refrigerator, oven, washer, dryer, dishwasher, and an entire light pole. The light pole baffled Midoriya. How did it get on the beach, and who left a working motorcycle here? Well, if I did choose to be a vigilante, that motorcycle could be useful. Although none of those thoughts are as interesting as how someone managed to drag an engineless truck out to this beach. Thinks Midoriya. He also found a speed gun. The kind they use to see how fast a pitcher can throw a baseball. He found out that the fastest he could sprint was 60 miles per hour or 96.56 kilometers per hour. The more Midoriya used his powers, the more he realized he could be a hero. Even if he wasn't a hero or a vigilante or any other kind of crime fighter, he knew he could finally help people. He decided to send another text to his mother before cleaning the beach so that others could enjoy it. It was a split-second decision, but he wouldn't come to regret it. He didn't know what to do with the garbage, so he decided to try to make it take up less space so that he could do something with it later. He crushed some of it so that it was smaller, but he didn't really have a concrete plan set in place. He decided he would have to wait until later. He was working so long that the sun had gone down and twilight had passed. The clouds went away from the sky and stars took their place. He was worrying his mother a little, but since he kept checking in, she allowed it. Midoriya saw that it was getting close to 9, and he knew that he had to take a break to go visit Ruby and talk about vampirism. He didn't want to stop working because work meant a distraction, not only from hunger, but from his mental turmoil that threatened to overtake him if he wasn't careful. He sent his hourly text a little early and got on his way to the hospital to talk with Ruby. He made it to the hospital a little before 9 and waited on a bench near the entrance while staring up at the stars and moon. About a minute after 9, he saw Ruby walk out of the hospital. She began to look around before spotting him on the bench waving at her. Upon seeing him, she walked over and sat next to him. "It's a nice night, isn't it?" asks Ruby. "Yeah. It is," replies Izuku. "Our powers actually become stronger at night," says Ruby. "Oh. That's interesting. I should look into that," says Izuku. "So, have you figured out what your power is?" asks Ruby. "Are all vampires strong enough to lift several trucks worth of weight?" asks Izuku. "No," replies Ruby. "Then I have super strength," says Izuku. "How did you learn about your powers?" asks Ruby. "I caught a fridge that was going to crush me," says Izuku like it's no big deal. Ruby stares at Izuku with a confused expression before saying, "You almost died again." Oh shit. I almost got crushed by a fridge. How have I not thought about this before?" says Izuku with a panicked tone of voice and erratic speech. "It's probably because you found out that you have super strength," says Ruby. "Oh right, the super strength is so cool," gushes Izuku. "Yeah, how did you learn about the thing with the trucks?" asks Ruby. "I spent most of my day testing my powers at the beach. The one downtown that people dump garbage in. I found a truck and stacked about a truck's worth of appliances into the truck bed and started lifting that," says Izuku. "That's impressive," says Ruby. "Thanks," replies Izuku. "So I wanted to get to my main reason for bringing you here," says Ruby while getting off of the bench and taking a couple of steps away. "And what would that be?" asks Izuku. "I want to talk about all of the powers that vampires have. Not just the ones that individuals have. We all have some regeneration. Which is why I can do this and not feel fear for my lungs," she says as she lights and begins to smoke a cigarette. "We can also grow claws and fangs, as I've previously mentioned. We can turn into bats and also communicate with bats. Now do me a favor and flex your ears," says Ruby. Okay," says Izuku as his ears visibly narrow and point, making them look elvish. "Wow, I can hear everything." "Yeah, we have enhanced senses. You can wrinkle your nose to smell better. If you wink, you see better. If you wink one eye after the other, it will be like having super clear eyes with night vision," says Ruby. Izuku does what Ruby tells him before replying, "Wow, I have a great perspective of everything going on around me. Also, you can erase your presence from cameras. It would be good for vigilantism," says Ruby. How do I do it? Asks Izuku. Just think disappear, and to turn it off think reappear. Says Ruby. That seems simple enough. Says Izuku. You can also turn into a bat. Says Ruby. How do I do that? Asks Izuku. Now for turning into a bat, just imagine becoming a bat, says Ruby. Is that all? Asks Izuku. Yeah, it's not very complicated. Replies Ruby. Suddenly Izuku is no longer on the bench. He is on the floor, as a bat. Try flying, says Ruby. Izuku begins flapping his wings until he gets off of the ground and starts flying in circles before doing loops in the air. Before you ask, we have instincts that tell us how to fly. If we didn't, we would have to learn the hard way. Says Ruby. Now for turning back, just imagine your old body. Izuku suddenly returns in his vampire form and falls to the ground. Also, we can regenerate the damage dealt by small wounds. If you want to heal more, you will need to drink blood, and you will heal almost any wound on you. The only wound you might not be able to heal is on the heart, but we don't need it to beat, and if you drink enough blood it will heal anyways. If you don't heal, it is gonna hurt like hell. Says Ruby. That regeneration sounds really useful. Replies Izuku. It is, but there are some things that can still kill us. Those are decapitation, having a stake or anti-vampire blade driven through your heart. Also holy blades and silver blades are hard to regenerate from. Says Ruby. If holy weapons hurt us, does that mean we aren't holy? Asks Izuku. Bingo. That also means we lose our powers if we enter a church or a cathedral or any place that has been blessed. Says Ruby. That seems inconvenient. Replies Izuku. Also, crosses have a glare when we look at them, so if somebody with a cross fights you, use your ears and nose to find them. Says Ruby. I don't think people are going to come at me with a cross, says Izuku. That's a fair assessment, but it doesn't hurt to know these kinds of things. Says Ruby. That's a good point. Says Izuku. I think I'm running out of things you need to know, although now that I think about it, your body will experience some changes. Says Ruby. What kind of changes? Asks Izuku. It's like puberty, but more aggressive. You'll get more muscle mass. You'll grow more hair and have to start shaving. You'll grow in height, and says Ruby. Grow what? Asks Izuku. Well, you'll find out soon enough. But I need to tell you that you need to drink soon. Says Ruby. I don't know what to do about that. Replies Izuku. Do you want to know what I do when I'm stressed or don't know what to do? Says Ruby. What do you do? Asks Izuku. Ruby takes another cigarette out of her pocket, lights it, and hands it to Izuku. You want me to smoke this? Asks Izuku. I know it's bad for humans. But I'm a doctor, and I can confirm that it does no harm to vampires. Which reminds me, vampires can't get sick or get a disease. So you can get all the ladies and not worry about STDs. Says Ruby. Okay, that's nice, I guess. Says Izuku. I try to be the fun aunt figure with all teenagers or children. Says Ruby. Well, that explains the cigarettes. Says Izuku. Speaking of which, you haven't tried it. Says Ruby. Well, what exactly does it do? Asks Izuku. It makes your brain release dopamine. Which makes you happy. Says Ruby. Oh, and there are no repercussions for me smoking this. Says Midoriya. None at all. Replies Ruby. Well, I guess I could use some dopamine. But how do you do it? Asks Izuku. You hold the orange part in your mouth, and you breathe in the smoke, then you breathe out. If you repeat these actions, you'll get dopamine. Also, vampires can't become addicted. Says Ruby. Izuku tries the cigarette and blows out smoke. I thought I would start coughing. Says Izuku. You don't need oxygen, so you won't cough. Ruby says, well, I have to go now. See you soon. Yeah, see you soon. Says Izuku. Ruby and Izuku both go on their way home. Izuku texts his mom again to let her know he was out with a friend and that he would be home soon. Izuku was walking home and working his way through a cigarette. He finished the cigarette, made sure it wasn't still burning, and put it in a trash can in the park he was walking through. He kept walking home when he heard a high-pitched scream from the alleyways between the buildings lining the park. Izuku immediately runs to where he heard the scream to see a sleazy-looking man kicking a woman in the ribs. You dirty whore. Give me what I came for. Says the criminal. Izuku runs in and grabs the man. He pulls the man away from the woman, and the man pulls out a knife. Run. Shouts Izuku. The man tries to stab Izuku with the knife, but Izuku had gotten a good sense of reflexes from dealing with Bakugo for years and stepped back to avoid the knife. He then punched the man across the alleyway into several trash bags. He realized that the man was unconscious. The fact that what he had just done was vigilantism barely registered through his mind. The only thing he could focus on was the smell of the blood leaking from the man's mouth. It smelled similarly to copper, and the scent was intoxicating. The smell was heavenly in a way Izuku never can and never will be able to explain. Izuku wasn't in control of his body as he shot forwards and dug his teeth into the villain's shoulder. He drank until he was able to stop himself. Midoriya panicked and, not knowing what to do, ran home. When he got home he saw his mom on the couch asleep. He assumed she was waiting for him. With guilt weighing him down he carried his mother to her bed and took a cold bath trying to wash the blood off of himself long after it was gone. He finally got to bed and he realized one thing about the whole event. He felt alive. He felt happy. It's been so long since he's felt truly alive and he finally has that feeling back. "I've got to do that again," says Midoriya before succumbing to exhaustion and falling asleep. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.